All right, so let's jump right in. You hear about crypto all the time, right? But what about the actual tech that makes it all work? Well, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to break down exactly what a blockchain is, in the simplest terms I can think of. And then, and this is the important part, we'll give you a solid framework to look at any project that's built on it.
Okay, let's start with a simple idea. I want you to imagine a special kind of notebook. Now, this isn't your private diary, not at all. It's more like a public book that's copied and shared across thousands, maybe millions of computers all over the world. And here's the magic rule. Once you write something down in this notebook, it can never be erased. Ever. That right there, in a nutshell, is the big idea behind blockchain.
So to put a more official name on it, what we're talking about is a blockchain. It's basically a digital record-keeping system. All the information, like say your transactions, gets bundled together into these things called blocks. Then each new block gets securely chained to the one before it, creating this long, unbreakable chain. And that structure, that chain, is exactly what makes the history in our digital notebook totally permanent and super secure.
So you might be wondering, how does a new entry actually get written into this global notebook? Well, let's say you send some crypto to a friend. That transaction gets shouted out, basically to the whole network. Then all the computers on the network, we call them nodes. They all take a look and check to make sure everything's legit. Once enough of them agree, yep, this is valid, your transaction gets bundled into a new block and sealed onto the chain forever. And here's the real game changer. There's no bank, no middleman, no central company giving the thumbs up. The network itself takes care of everything.
But why should we trust this system? What makes it so incredibly hard to cheat or to hack? Well, it really boils down to three core pillars. And when these three things work together, they create something pretty amazing: digital trust.
The first pillar, and honestly, it's probably the most important one, is decentralization. The idea is simple. Instead of one person or one company calling all the shots, the power is spread out across the entire network.
So what does that actually mean? It means there's no single boss. Because our digital notebook is copied onto thousands of computers all over the globe, there's no one single server for a hacker to target. There's no single point of failure. And since everyone on the network has the exact same copy of the book, trying to sneak into secret change or corrupt the data is, well, it's pretty much impossible.
All right, pillar number 2. This is the tech that locks it all down: cryptography. This is literally what puts the secure in that secure, unchangeable chain we keep talking about.
Just think of cryptography as an unbreakable digital fingerprint. Every single block gets stamped with a unique, complex code called a hash. But here's the really clever part. Each new block's fingerprint is also mathematically linked to the fingerprint of the block that came right before it. So what happens if a hacker tries to change just one tiny detail in an old block? The fingerprint changes, the chain breaks instantly, and the entire network would immediately see it and say, nope, not happening.
And that brings us to our third and final pillar: consensus. This is just the process for how everyone on the network agrees on what's true. It's the rule book that makes sure only legitimate transactions get added to our notebook. See, before a new block gets added to the chain, the whole network has to agree that it's valid. They use what are called consensus mechanisms to do this. You've probably heard of proof of work, which is what Bitcoin uses. That's where powerful computers race to solve a really hard math problem. It's super secure, but man, it uses a ton of energy. A lot of newer systems use something called proof of stake. Here, people lock up their own crypto as collateral to vouch for the new block. It's way more energy efficient. But at the end of the day, they're just different ways to get the whole network to agree on what's true, all without needing a CEO to make the final call.
Okay, so now we've got a handle on the tech, right? Let's switch gears and talk about how you can actually use this knowledge. We're going to build a practical framework for analyzing any crypto project out there. And the absolute first step, well, it has nothing to do with technology and everything to do with you. You've got to know what your goal is. Seriously, before you even think about looking at a single project, you have to ask yourself one simple question. Am I a trader or am I an investor? Because I promise you, your answer to that question changes everything about how you need to approach this space. So what's the difference? A trader, they're all about the short term. They're watching the charts, looking for quick price moves, and they might be in and out of a position in a few days or even just a few hours. An investor, though, is playing a totally different game. They're focused on the long-term fundamentals. They believe in the project's vision and are prepared to hold on for years, even through those crazy price swings we all know happen. Figuring out which camp you're in before you put any money down is your #1 defense against making emotional, panic-driven decisions later on.
Right, so once you know your goal, then you can start digging into projects. And we can break this whole analysis down into a really simple 3-point check. Think of it as your foundational toolkit for research. It really all boils down to just three things. First, the idea. Second, the team behind that idea. And third, the technology they're building. Let's take a closer look at what you should be looking for in each of these.
First up, the idea itself. Ask yourself, what problem is this project actually trying to solve? Is it a real problem that real people have? And here's the million-dollar question. Does it really need a blockchain and a token to solve it? Or did they just slap that on for the hype? If the solution doesn't absolutely need decentralization or an unchangeable record, you have to question why it's a crypto project at all. A good rule of thumb? If you can't explain what it does in one simple sentence, that's a pretty big red flag.
Next up, the team. Look, a brilliant idea is completely worthless if you don't have a team that can actually build it. So, are the founders public? Can you see their faces and their names? Or are they hiding behind anonymous profiles? Dig into their history. Have they built successful things before? And don't forget to check out the community around the project. Is it strong? Is it passionate? Remember, you're not just betting on lines of code. You're betting on the people writing that code. And finally, let's talk about the technology. Now, you don't have to be a master coder to do this, but you can look for some key signs of quality. For example, has the code been professionally audited for security holes by a known company? That's a big one. You can also pop over to their GitHub page. Are developers constantly updating the code? Or is it a ghost town? It's kind of like looking under the hood of a car. You want to see that the engine is actually being worked on, not just collecting dust.
Okay, so once you've checked out those core fundamentals, the idea, the team, the tech, it's time to follow the money and the users. This is where we look at the numbers to see if the project has a healthy economic setup and, maybe most importantly, if people are actually using it.
What you're looking at here is something called tokenomics. It sounds complicated, but it's really just the economics of the token. It answers the question, who owns the tokens? You really want to pay attention to this. If the founding team and a few early investors are holding a giant chunk of the supply that's about to be unlocked, well, that could mean a massive wave of selling is coming, which could crash the price. What you'd rather see is a nice, fair distribution. That's usually a much healthier sign for the long haul. And this right here is the ultimate proof. Are people actually using this thing? We can check this by looking at on-chain data. Are things like the number of daily transactions or the number of active wallets going up? If it's a DeFi project, is the total value locked? That's just the total amount of money people have trusted the system with. Is that number growing? When you see these numbers climbing, it means the project is getting real traction. It's moving beyond just hype and speculation into something with real utility.
All right, you've done the homework. The idea looks solid, the team seems legit, the numbers are trending up. So what now? Well, the final crucial step is to turn all that research into an actual plan. Because honestly, research without a plan, that's just a hobby.
And the good plan, a powerful plan, can be really simple. It just needs 3 parts. Number 1, define your entry. What's the price range where you feel good about buying in? Number 2, set your profit targets. At what prices are you going to sell some and take some profits off the table? And number 3, and this is so important, plan your exit. At what price do you admit your theory was wrong and cut your losses? Writing this stuff down beforehand is what saves you from making bad, emotional decisions when things get crazy.
So, let's bring it all home. We've seen how blockchain gives us this incredible new foundation for building systems based on pure digital trust, where the rules are baked into the code itself, not dependent on people. But, as our framework shows, a project is so much more than just its code. The technology might create the trust, but the real question you have to ask yourself is this: who will you trust to build on it?